Steve Bannon is talking about a third Trump term, and it's really alarming to people.
Congress can put a screeching halt to
How
that, if
can
I'm
Congress?
not mistaken.
How can Congress do that if Trump says, "Sorry, I'm not leaving"? Welcome to the Two Angry Men podcast. I am Harvey Levin.
I'm Mark Geragos, and boy, we've got somebody that I really want to talk to today, Harvey. I'll let you do the intros, but I haven't seen him for a while, and I'm happy to have him here.
I have a history with him as well. Let us first say what we are going to talk about today. So there is a lot of anger in some quarters over the erasing of DEI, particularly from the Pentagon, erasing some articles that the AI program to erase DEI that has just erased things. For example, Medgar Evers, who was a pioneer in the civil rights movement and a distinguished military career, an article on Medgar Evers was erased because of DEI. Same thing with the Tuskegee Airmen. Same thing with the Navajo Code Talkers. Same thing with the Enola Gay, which is the airplane that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. The Enola Gay was actually the mother of the pilot of that plane, but the word gay triggered it. And there are other things that happened as well. Now, some of these have been restored, but it is really raising a lot of questions. So Mark and I were thinking, who do we want to bring on who has a real perspective of this? Jason Chaffetz is somebody who does. I mean, he was a congressman for many years. He knows so much about politics. He is a contributor on Fox News Channel. He occasionally hosts some of the shows there, and just a real smart guy. I'm not saying a guy I personally always agree with, because I don't, but we can always have respectful disagreements. And so Jason is joining us right now, and Mark and I are thrilled you're here. Thank you, Jason.
Hey, Harvey, Mark, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate you thinking of me.
We appreciate you coming on.
We were talking before we got on here. I haven't seen you in a while. Last time I saw you was in Salt Lake City, so welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you. And thanks for putting up the picture of fat Jason. I've lost some weight up there, but
Can I tell you something? The biggest criticism TMZ gets when we put stories up, it has nothing to do with the content. It has to do with the picture, and we get it all the time.
Well, by the way, we're sitting here, both Harvey and I are sitting in the land ground zero of Ozempic. So you couldn't find more humans on Ozempic than in the 30-mile zone. So
It's true. Okay, well, look, apologies, Jason, going in for that, okay?
no, it's my fault. I shouldn't have been so porky, but you eat enough M&Ms in Congress that, yeah, that's the way you end up looking. So.
Fair enough. So just generally, this is offensive to a lot of people, where you take somebody, and by the way, I didn't mention Jackie Robinson, whose military career was also scrubbed with this AI program trying to eliminate DEI. So a lot of people are really, really upset about that, and they think this is an overreach. Some people say it's racist. What say you?
I don't want to erase history. I don't want to erase where we have been. I want people to be able to pursue and excel based on merit rather than on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I've been opposed to. But, AI, I think, can be, it's an emerging technology. I think it can be really smart. It's a big part of our future. I worry about the ramifications of it. But, the Enola Gay, come on. I mean, are we going to erase everything that says the word gay in it? I mean, that's ridiculous.
I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, it shows the fallibility right now of AI. And by the way, we are going in this fight, as you can imagine, where judges are saying you got to certify that you didn't use AI in certain things because the AI will basically these AI hallucinations. It's still a emerging technology, and I'm with you. When I saw that it flagged gay and took it down, I mean, who's going to say, yeah, that makes sense? That's it's kind of a straw man argument.
I am coming at this differently because I don't think the issue is AI at all. What bothers me is who's programming it. That it feels to me like what they have done is they found keywords: black, Latino, gay, women, and there is an almost implicit assumption in that the people who pop up when you put those words into an AI program somehow got to where they are, not on the merits, but because of being gay, being black. That to a lot of people, and I got to say, to me as well, when you put those words in for that purpose, that feels racist to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you, Harvey, at all, because and look, conservatives on the other end of the spectrum feel that same way too. They feel like, hey, if you're a conservative, if you're Republican, if you had supported certain things, you get debanked, that you get highlighted. I mean, notoriously, there was a thing out there that was talking about, look, if you shopped at Dick's Sporting Goods,
Right.
if you supported the Second Amendment, then somehow you're this radical American that gets flagged. And I fundamentally, at my core, it's vile to me. If you're a suspicionless American, why are you getting all these tags put on you? I mean, that's what's scary about the future, is there are these tags, whether it be through facial recognition or artificial intelligence or other things that are happening out there. I'm writing a book about this very topic. It doesn't come out until July, but this very topic, because it is amazing how much data is sold and purchased by our government and by individuals and by, who knows, nefarious characters or corporations. It's not just, hey, how do I help Harvey and Mark find the local coffee shop or to get a better donut? It's being used in very nefarious ways.
It's so interesting you say that, because I remember during the run-up to the 2016 election and all of the brouhaha about Cambridge Analytics and then the Facebook and the buying of data and then the idea of the bots and everything that was happening. It's an amazing technology and incredibly pinpoint in the kinds of things that you can do. You can geofence, you can go down and you can find on a particular block who's doing this, who leans this way, who leans that way. And as you say, Jason, it can be used for a lot of good things, but boy, it can also be frightening if you use it in nefarious ways as well.
When I was in Congress, we actually held hearings. The IRS, for instance, had purchased what are called stingrays. A stingray can go and basically capture everybody's mobile phone in a particular area. Well, once it knows where you are, and they know your number, then they can track you. And we held hearings on this, saying, the IRS, why are you doing this? If you know that somebody's going to an AA clinic or maybe going to let's say a cancer
methadone clinic,
methadone or a cancer,
getting chemo, exactly.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think an insurance company might purchase that and say, let's go ahead and drop this person? I mean, that's where this is going. It's omnipresent and it's scary, and it can be used for political reasons. It can be used for, there's so many bad reasons, right? There's no end. And it goes the full political spectrum. It can go from the most liberal person to the most conservative person. Everybody's affected. And I really worry about the youth. I think they are stepping in these landmines that they will last their whole lives, and it's wrong. It's just fundamentally wrong.
I want to get back to the human element to this, because I'm not satisfied with the answer. People are plugging race, sexual orientation in as if there's something underlying, there's something suspicious about that in terms of whether somebody achieved based on the merits. And, that is a hallmark of the Trump administration right now. They want to get rid of it. And, that's fine. If you don't want DEI, that's fine. But when you cast such a wide net that it includes Jackie Robinson just because he's black, it includes an airplane because the word gay is in there, it includes all of these things. And then you look at, I'll tell you, one of the things that has struck me and I can't forget and to me aligns with this is the night of that American Airlines crash at Reagan National Airport, Donald Trump came out and talked about DEI as a possible cause. Well, maybe it looks to me like he knew that the helicopter pilot was black, and therefore she must have been a DEI hire. I mean, that's the way I received it. And that is going down a path that feels like a bygone era 50 years ago. And it really upsets me.
For you to question it, I have no problem with you questioning it. I think that's a particular case that's still playing itself out. And but I don't like the idea of trying to essentially racially profile, whether it be based on sexual orientation or preferences or however you want to term that. I find that offensive as well. But I also hope that there is an agreement that people should not be promoted or put into positions just based on superficial factors. It bothers me that we even identify people as black people. Like, I have a hard time saying that. It sounds so weird, so foreign to me. If it's a friend of mine, why do I have to identify him as, like, I shouldn't have to do that. Who cares? It's nothing.
But in America, aren't there consequences of being black? Because I know there are consequences of being gay. I grew up that way.
And I think,
but
go ahead, Mark.
I don't understand though, because I get what you're saying. I mean, people refer to that, Harvey, as a dog whistle when it comes to a DEI hire. I get that. But I'm not so sure that the AI programs that are picking this up, I mean, isn't more garbage in, garbage out. And I guess what you're focusing in is the garbage in.
The keywords. I'm focusing on the keywords.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Jason, does your book that's coming out, and I'm not trying to shamelessly plug it, do you have a thesis as to that? I mean, is there an intersection as to what your book is about and this idea of trying to train AI to do these kinds of tasks?
Well, again, part of what I did in Congress, AI was not as merging. I haven't been in Congress in 8 years, but one of the things we did look into is facial recognition, which is where the FBI was illegally capturing these photos. They're buying the data. They're obtaining it. One of the things, not to get ahead of my book here, but a little bit, but when you go to get your driver's license, you're a 16-year-old, guess what? Some of the states are selling that information to data brokers. They're selling it. Did you know that your 16-year-old daughter's data is being sold and given to the FBI? You're a suspicious American,
That's how we met. This is how we met. Remember?
Yes, exactly. Because I was fascinated. I thought you would be very different than actually the way I thought you'd be a First Amendment, anything, everything goes. And I love that. And we had these in-depth discussions. Mark, it got so bad I was doing hearings and Harvey would be texting me questions.
Yeah, Harvey's only a First Amendment absolutist when he's getting sued for
That's
TMZ.
That's
right.
True.
That's exactly.
He kind of becomes, he embraces it when it's
not
at the defense.
true. That's not
That is
true.
100% true, counselor. Thank you.
Hey, would you guys mind if I pivot to something that just happened?
Sure.
So I am really interested to know what you think of this. Steve Bannon was on the air today, and he is talking about a third Trump term, running or becoming president for a third term in 2028. And he was asked about it by Chris Cuomo on News Nation. And he was asked, how would that happen? Obviously, you could try and repeal the 22nd Amendment, which is never going to happen because you need 2/3 of Congress and I believe 3/4 of the state legislatures, and that's just never going to happen. So then, how is that going to happen? And he never answered the question. And it's really alarming to people because if Donald Trump can insert himself as a third-term president without a change to that 22nd Amendment, I don't see how democracy survives.
I mean, I think that's an absolute no-go. I think the Constitution's pretty clear. I don't think we're going to change it. I think it's always been understood that you get 2 terms and you're done.
So what do you think
It's
Bannon?
that simple.
So what do you think Bannon's talking about? Because I have a sense.
Right. What do you think? Because I will tell you, knowing Steve Bannon, who I think people underestimate the brilliance of just his brain power. I mean, Steve is a very, very bright man. But at some points, he's also strategically or tactically, he likes to provoke, and he's a master of provocation. I saw that interview, Harvey, and when pressed on it, he said, "Stay tuned."
Yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. I mean, look, you could have made the argument, a legal argument, that if you believe that 2020 was stolen, that he was owed a term, blah, 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 or something like that. But now that 24 has happened and he is the current president, I agree with Jason. It's a non-starter. I don't see any way legally or constitutionally for that to happen.
That's the catch. So let me just throw this out to you. Because this is, honestly, I had trouble sleeping last night thinking about this. That what if Donald Trump has made it clear that he thinks the courts have no business questioning what he says is in the executive realm. He's made that very clear. He's got people in his cabinet who are saying, ignore the courts. Arguably, they defied at least one court order in terms of not turning those airplanes around. So if they decide they're not going to listen to what the courts say, and he says, I am not leaving the White House, and he has control of the military, that is certainly a way, not a legal way, at least not under our Constitution, but I don't see what else Bannon's talking about, to be honest with you. And it feels to me like Bannon is saying, we're going to basically tear up that Constitution, and he's going to stay in power because he got a mandate that is unlike anything since 1932. And that scares the shit out of me.
Well, there's a lot of things in life to be worried about. That's not one of them.
Really?
No, I don't. I think that's so far so extreme. I don't want you to lose any sleep, Harvey. You got a lot of other things to lose some sleep over. That ain't one of them. So,
yes, Harvey could lose sleep about Kanye and Kim, but certainly not. I think the likelihood of that happening constitutionally, I just don't see it. By the way,
January 6th.
Well, hold on. You look at some of the things you want to prognosticate. Look at the split at the U.S. Supreme Court. I mean, you had, I used to analyze the U.S. Supreme Court in threes. There was the 3-3-3, and you would always get 6-3 opinions. It's now kind of flipped to a 5-4, and that 5-4, Roberts and Amy Coney are kind of, they're the middle. And I'm not so sure if they went a bridge too far that you wouldn't push those two into the other column.
Sure, but Mark, what if they say, okay, that's what the Supreme Court says, we're not going to follow it? Who has the power at that point?
Yeah,
Harvey, where were you when Joe Biden was saying this?
Think? Jason, what do you think would happen in Congress if that happened? You tell me.
There'd be an uproar. There'd be a bipartisan approach that said, no, that's not what's going to happen. And by the way, where were you when Joe Biden was talking this talk and doing those things? I mean, they were openly defiant on the student loans. I said, I don't care.
I think that the student loan, his position on student loans was terrible. I agree with you. So this is not me, taking one side. I think there have been problems on both sides with this. And frankly, in terms of delegitimizing the courts, Donald Trump did it during the election. Joe Biden did it when he pardoned Hunter. Sorry about that, Mark, but he said it.
Thanks a lot.
I'm sorry, but he said Hunter was unfairly prosecuted, and it's casting doubt on the Justice Department. So, yeah, there has been...
but that's, I know people like to make that accusation, but let's just put Hunter aside for 1 second, or actually embrace Hunter for 1 second. The more fundamental problem is that when the Department of Justice basically outsources their function to special counsels, which is now, or previous independent counsels, that's where the problem lies. Because remember, Hunter was prosecuted by a special counsel, not by the Department of Justice. And you could make, I think, a valid criticism of Merrick Garland for basically abdicating his role as the Attorney General.
I agree with that.
So, and I was complaining about independent counsels in the 90s when Whitewater was happening. So I think it's kind of a sexy or attractive, superficial argument to make. But it really, if the system is set up right, if the Department of Justice doesn't punt their function, then I don't think you've got a problem.
They have punted their function.
But I totally agree with what Mark is saying. I thought her report that shows that you can do it within the scope of the Department of Justice. And if you're going to have a special prosecutor, you got to have a special prosecutor statute that lays it out, that passes Congress. And there is no such statute.
Okay. Exactly. And by the way, I'm not a huge fan of Clarence Thomas. You don't see me making the, unlike others, but Clarence Thomas, in his concurrence at the U.S. Supreme Court, basically said, what are we doing here? How do you just have this magical prosecutor that's roving around? And it's the same argument, by the way, that Donald Trump was making during his administration, which I agreed with there. It's something that needs to be eliminated. And there is a both sidism that we allow to happen.
There is a both sidism, but one side has taken it to a much larger extreme than the other. They just have. Donald Trump is talking about calling a federal judge a local judge. There were 60 court cases with the election, and he doesn't care. So I want to pose this to you because I think this is a possibility, especially you listen to Steve Bannon, who has Donald Trump's ear. What if Donald Trump says, I feel like it is within my duty to stay in office. It's almost like declaring martial law because I'm saving the country. And the courts say, you can't do this. And Donald Trump decides, I'm going to do what I've done in the last 4 years, which is I'm going to question the courts and even defy them. Who has the power at that point? Because that's a possibility. The court doesn't control the military. Donald Trump does. The court doesn't,
Congress can put a screeching halt to that.
How can Congress do that?
Jason, would you want to educate Harvey?
How can Congress do that if Trump says, sorry, I'm not leaving?
Well, I think it's this wild hypothetical that this is literally day 90 of the Trump administration version 2, Trump 47. So I think we're way out ahead of our skis on this one. But look, Congress is the one that appropriates money. Congress is the one that has the control of the purses. And I don't think there's any movement. There is, one comment by Steve Bannon, who's prone to saying a lot of different things. I don't think that this is a threat to the country at this point. And I'm sorry, Harvey, but I disagree with you. I don't think, I think Donald Trump brings up a very good point about these district court judges putting out rulings they seem to happen frequently now, thwarting the ability of the executive branch and the president of the United States to administer the executive branch.
Like repealing birthright citizenship?
Putting question and doing things like turning around the airplanes when the president is deporting people. There's a pretty good case on the other side of this to say, no, by the time that ruling came over, 2 of those airplanes were already out of international airspace. And the other people had violated the law, and he had every right to deport these people.
So let me ask you something. There are some people who support Roe versus Wade, and there are some person who support the Dobbs decision. So the Supreme Court sometimes pleases, and they sometimes don't please. So isn't it our responsibility, our duty, to accept what they do, or can we defy what they do when they think that when we think they made a wrong ruling? Are we obligated to follow what the courts say?
Yeah, we follow what the courts say. And what I'm trying to say is,
I'm not hearing that from Trump.
Well, I didn't hear that from Joe Biden either. I heard it quite the opposite. When he said, hey, you cannot do this with the student loans, what did he do? He kept getting rid of billions of dollars in obligations. And he just openly defied them. And it was wrong.
I agree.
And there was a very faint whisper of, oh, you shouldn't have done that, but we need to call it out when it happens on both sides. It's fair, but
I
I
agree.
don't.
I agree. I mean, and it's not both side isms. It is, look, when you lawfare one way, lawfare the other way, and I mean, every example that you give, I'll give you another example of the other side doing it in recent history. So it's just raising the stakes, if you will.
There is only one president who has not accepted the results of an election. Only one. So
Correct.
both sidesism, yeah, they're the
But
Biden.
wait a sec.
But
wait
he
a
did
sec.
leave.
But what happened?
He
what
did
happened?
leave.
He didn't like it. He complained about it, but
Af-
peacefully turned over the
peacefully,
keys.
peacefully.
Yes.
January 6th was peacefully.
No, I meant January
That's part
20th.
of it.
January 20th. And
No,
by the way,
but I'm saying January 6th. The goal
Okay.
on January 6th was to overturn that election. That was the goal. He wanted Pence not to certify that election, and he didn't stop the rioters. So I'm sorry, but this was not a peaceful transition.
There's a lot more to that story, and I think you know that. And to Mark's point, January 20th happened as January 20th was supposed to do, and Mike Pence did what he was supposed to do. People like Mike Lee, a senator from Utah, who I know very well, very tuned into the Constitution. He's like, this is my thing. He was looking for every way he possibly could. But you know what he did? He voted the right way. He voted the fact that, yes, these were certified by the states. So
and by
again,
the way, Jay, I was reminded, Harvey, here and sitting in California, I don't know, Jason, and if you've been following this, but John Eastman was arguing against his disbarment here in California in front of the California Supreme Court, which I find personally, look, I couldn't disagree on the ideology any more than admittedly I do with John Eastman, but the whole idea leading up to the 2020 election, for a year prior, people were talking about this theory that that the election could be thrown into the House. People were talking about a constitutional theory that you could get the state legislatures to decide this. I was talking about it publicly, that was kind of the game plan. John Eastman was the one who had kind of created that. The idea that somehow we're now going to disbar a lawyer today, this morning was the article on it, because he came up with a legal theory. That's, to me, that's a bridge too far.
yeah. Look, you guys are both.
I agree with that too.
You guys are both attorneys. I'm not. I happen to be on the House Judiciary Committee, so I played
was
one
going
on
to
TV.
say, I'm not an attorney, but I'm playing one in Congress.
Yeah, I mean,
always
really.
assumed you were.
Jason, you make fun of me that I play lawyer on TV. I am a lawyer, and come on, man.
I know, that's my point. So I thought that what Justice Roberts said earlier this week was a political statement and was fundamentally wrong, and I thought his statement was flawed. When he was taking issue with the idea of impeaching a judge,
yes,
I'm sorry, with all due respect to the Chief Justice, that is a remedy. He may not want it to be invoked, he may not want it to be used, but we can impeach as a Congress. They can impeach judges.
they
correct?
can. And does that take you down the road, something that I've been talking about, which is there is a movement within the Trump administration to stop the courts from interfering. And at a point, you've already got people in the cabinet saying, defy the courts. You're not feeling that pull? Because I sure am.
I think that Justice Roberts weighing in was a political statement. I expect more from a Chief Justice. He's not to weigh in on the politics of it, and
It's not
he is
politics.
It is.
Well,
It is.
wait, I have a more broad-based kind of observation. If it is not politics, as Jason postulates, and if Harvey, you're saying he's talking about impeachment in this specific case, he should not be commenting under the judicial canons of ethics on a particular case.
He
I mean,
didn't.
that is
He just
that's
no. He
verboten.
didn't comment on the case. He didn't
Well,
support.
who else?
He
What
didn't.
else was
He
he
didn't
commenting
support
on?
the
He didn't just
ruling. What he
he
said.
didn't just wake up and say,
He didn't.
I'm against impeachment when
No,
it was
he
specifically
no.
in
He
context.
didn't. He didn't argue what the merits of the ruling. What he said was that just because you disagree with a judge's decision should not push you to try and impeach him. And I think that's a valid point. He's raising a principle about our judiciary, that if what we're going to do is, I mean, that's why I was against court packing when the Democrats wanted to, increase the court to 14 so they could preserve Roe versus Wade. You don't just add people to stack the court. And it's the same principle here.
I agree, but it should not have been the Chief Justice making this
Well,
statement.
who else? Who
Well,
else?
it could be issued from the administrative office of the courts. Or you could just say we're not
some
going to
dude you
comment
don't
on
know.
pending
Some dude you
cases.
don't know.
Well,
It's
the
like
Chief Justice weighing in presents the same kinds of problems, are first cousins of the same kinds of problems that you've got when you have other Supreme Court justices weighing in on, if I took a hunting trip with somebody and now I'm going to handle a case or this or that, and everybody's hair's on fire when that happens. Why is your hair not on fire when the Chief Justice is
I'll tell you why.
on a particular
You
case?
guys make the argument. Can you make an argument that because a judge rules in a way that you don't like, that's grounds for impeachment?
It could be because it goes over to Congress. Everything Congress does is inherently political. That's why I believe the Chief Justice's comments were political. It wasn't based in fact. It was like, hey, I don't think you should do this on these grounds. But Congress has full latitude. And the bar is so high, it rare to never happens. And that's the beauty of the system.
Until now.
You served with a congressman who was impeached as a federal district court judge.
That's exactly right.
And why? And why?
Bribery, I think, was the charge.
Bribery is not the same as I disagree with his ruling.
That's why you haven't seen articles of impeachment. That's why if they were introduced, I highly doubt that they would pass. And the threshold to pass is so high. That's the beauty and the miracle of our founders, that it's very difficult to be there. You can't just get 20 guys on the far right or the far left and say, hey, we're going to do impeachment. It's got to go through the House. And I tell you, we looked at multiple different judges that we were considering, and we knew that if we didn't have a rock solid case that was bipartisan, there's no way we should waste our time and go through these gyrations. And so I think the Chief Justice made a political comment. Congress has full latitude. It does not have to be a specific reason.
Right.
It's political.
It's sort of like, he doesn't want to be Neville Chamberlain. He doesn't want to sit there and think, okay, everything's okay. It's not going to happen. But you see the road we're going down. Why did Steve Bannon do what he did today? Why do you have a cabinet member saying defy the court? Why do you have the press secretary for the president coming out and disparaging a judge who makes a ruling that you don't believe in? And by the way, I criticize the Democrats for trying to delegitimize the Supreme Court when the Dobbs decision came down. It's all the same principle, but Trump is taking this way far down the road.
I think they have full latitude to be critical of decisions. That happens on both sides of the aisle. When somebody doesn't like a ruling, they say they don't like it, and they explain why they don't like it. But it is the law of the land when the judge makes the ruling, and there is a process, and you go through the appeals process. The one that I saw most blatantly defying court order was Joe Biden, quite frankly. That's the most recent example.
So why did you choose television over running for governor of Utah?
I might still do that. There's still time, Harvey. My life's not over, but I like it.
You're a youngster. How old are you?
I turned 58 next week.
Oh, you got to move, man. Trust me. No, I mean, I'm really serious because I know you were thinking about it and you made a radical left turn, or should I say right turn?
Left turn? Where did I go? Don't tell people I turned left. What do you want me to?
He's trying to doom your gubernatorial
You know,
run
I live
before
in
it even
Utah.
started.
Utah's the one place where Bill Clinton came in third. Come on, you think we're going far left? No way.
Why didn't you run? I was assuming you were going to run for governor when you left Congress.
Well, I might still do that. I have openly said and thinking about potentially maybe a possibility of doing it in 2028. Our current governor has said that he's not going to run again. It'll be an open seat. We'll see. But right now, I get this big microphone with Fox News and being on with you, and I love what I'm doing, and it's fun. I don't plan on going anywhere.
Harvey, I'm gonna bet big money that it's infinitely more likely that he runs for governor in 2028 than Trump runs for president. Okay.
I might take that bet.
You
Mark.
take that bet?
I want to think about it.
Okay.
Jason, it's so nice having you on. It is so nice having you on.
This is fun. This is really fun. Hey guys, and I like the uniforms. I know Mark put on
This is not,
a coat,
I put this on for you. I saw that Harvey was going full gray.
I get up really early, so this is mine. This is my color today.
Yeah. And next time, send the after Mongiorno or after Ozempic picture, okay?
Right. Okay, Jason.
Great show. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. That was fun, Mark.
He's always a kick.
He's a really smart guy.
He's incredibly bright, and I think Utah could do a hell of a lot worse than him as governor. That's for sure.
He has some really strong, evolved views on privacy. That's how I got to know him. And
I remember that. I mean, he held some hearings that I'm a C-SPAN junkie, and I remember watching some of them.
No, he's a really, really smart guy. Okay, my friend. See you next week.
Good to see you. Bye-bye.
See you next week.